All right. Second thing is a student information sheet. I'm going to pass these around. Take one of these, and you can fill it out at home and bring it back tomorrow. You don't need to turn it in today. This is just to kind of give me some general information about who's in the class. So I want the following information on here. Tell me your preferred name, what you want me to call you by. Okay, it can be pretty much anything you want. Preferred pronouns, but also your name as it's listed in Canvas, so that I can link the two together. Self-assessed scale 1 to 10, how comfortable would you say you are working with Linux or Unix? 1 being not at all, 10 being I live, sleep, and breathe in a Linux machine at home, so I'm very comfortable. How comfortable are you with programming in general and with programming in C?
Those also 1 to 10?
Those are also 1 to 10, yeah. So this just kind of give me an idea where people stand to start with. Do you have a laptop, and if so, what's the operating system? Is it OS X, is it Windows, is it Linux, and so on? And will you be bringing it with you to class? Do you have a desktop machine, and if so, what's the operating system or operating systems? And then sentence or two, kind of what are you hoping to learn in this course? No right or wrong answer here, just sort of why are you here? If you're just here because this is required for you to take the course to pass Clark, right, that's fine, you can just say that. But if there's something in particular you're interested in, go ahead and let me know. I should have started the sign-in sheet up here, sorry. I'll get it to you at the end. All right, so those two things are going around. Like I say, you can fill in that information sheet now or at home and bring it back tomorrow. So this is CSE 224, Linux Programming and Tools. And it's the first of the 200 level CS sequence. So there's 3 courses in the sequence, 224, 22, and 23. And then there's a 4th course, which is CSE 215, Discrete Structures, which you should be taking either now or in winter. And incidentally, there's lots of spots open in the section this fall, so if you have space in your schedule, you'd rather take 215 now, switch over, because it's only got like 15 people in there. But it goes both fall and winter. All right, so my name is Nick Macias. I've been teaching this course for a number of years. And let me tell you what this course is intended for, basically. So first of all, it's out of sequence, right? There's 222, 223, and 224. 224 used to be the 3rd course in spring. We moved it to the beginning of the sequence in fall because we found the gap from 121 to 222 was sometimes very large, right? 121, you learn C programming, you learn some Linux stuff, but then maybe you take off a year or two before you start this 200 level sequence, and things get rusty, right? So part of the goal of this course is to really sort of bring people up to speed on C proficiency, make sure that everybody's got a good level of understanding of programming and programming in C in particular. So the course is pretty Canvas heavy in terms of assignments will be posted here, due dates will be listed here, announcements will be made through here, and so on and so forth. So I want to run through a few of these sections from Canvas. Does everybody here have Canvas access? Raise your hand if you don't. Okay, if you don't, come and see me after class or in my office or something, and we'll get you set up. So let me just run through a few of these details, starting with the syllabus. So programming tools, CSE 224. Basic course description, well, it's basically what I said. It's learning to live in a Unix environment, okay, Linux. Linux is probably where you're going to spend a lot of your time in school, in work, possibly on your own things that you're doing. More often than not, you're going to be in a Linux environment. So we want to get really comfortable with working in a Linux environment, not just so that we know how to compile a program if we go back to our notes and we dig it up, right? We want to be as comfortable as possible working in this environment. This is the domain in which you're doing your thing, which is programming, right? Problem solving, algorithm development. Unix is a set of tools to help you do that. It shouldn't be something that stands in your way. So there's lots of ways to change the Linux environment to tailor it to your own taste. Okay, and we want to get extremely comfortable with it so we don't have to stop what we're doing when we're writing a program and go back to our notes and say, now how am I supposed to compile this? I got to link the math library, and how do I do that again? And then we got to type 500 things on the keyboard. We don't want that, okay? We want to be able to concentrate on programming. That's our goal. So that means getting good with Unix, using it as a development environment. We want to review and make sure that we've got a good solid understanding of programming and of C in particular. We're also going to spend a lot of time looking at programming in what we call the bash shell. Okay, it's an interpreted environment. It looks kind of like C, but it's a whole lot quicker for rapid development. And it lets you do things in Unix that would be very painful to do by hand. For example, in the start of the quarter, I'd download a CVS file from Canvas that has everybody's name in it. Okay, I use that to create this sign-in sheet that's going around the class. I don't do that by hand. I have a shell script I wrote. It's like 10 lines long, but I basically just give it the file that I downloaded from Canvas, and it creates that file and that template with the lines after each name and stuff like that. Okay, it's all about tools. Okay, so we spend a lot of time learning about tool using. We also spend a lot of time talking about debugging. Okay, when you write a program and you run it and it doesn't work, what do? How do you figure out what the problem is? We're going to spend a lot of time talking about that. All right, so my name's Nick Macias. My email, nmacias@clark.edu. My office is 115, so the middle of the building has that big open lab space called the Collaboratorium. If you go through the doors to the other side, first office on the right is Izad, next office on the right is me. Okay, 115. My office hours are posted on my door. You can find hours for Izad, myself, Carol, and Tina on that website, but my hours are Tuesday and Thursday, 7 o'clock to 9:30 in the morning. So somewhere, some set of those hours should not conflict with whatever classes you're taking. So the official text for the class is the Linux command line. It's a free PDF, but it's really just a reference. I'm not assigning homework from the book. I'm not going to ask you about specific things that are listed in the book. It's one of about a zillion different Linux texts that are available. But this one happens to be free. It's very comprehensive, so I'm using that as the official text. Don't download it and print it. Don't read it cover to cover. Don't try to memorize it. Don't mimeograph it down so you can put it on your note sheets for exams, right? It's just a good text, but there's nothing particular about that one. Another good reference, if you still have your C primer text, the big blue book from 121, that's useful as a reference on C. But again, there's a zillion C references online. Tentative schedule, I'm not going to go through that. You can read that, and it's one possibility, but we probably won't stick to that very rigorously. But we have 11 weeks in this quarter, and then exams week 12. Course outcomes are, thank you. Course outcomes are sort of the formal description of what you're expected to learn in this course. Okay, this is what we sort of gear the course towards, but this is basically the stuff that I've described already. So you can read those on your own, but it's basically more detail about what I've already described. Let's talk about grading. Okay, so your grade on the course is based on the following categories. So programming assignments, these are longer term projects, about 2 weeks each. There's going to be 5 of those. The 5th one will be a group project. The other 4 are done individually. All combined, those assignments are worth 15% of your grade. Okay, that's not a lot, right? 15% takes you down to like a B+ or something if you never did a programming assignment. The percentages here are based kind of on the following reality, which is if I weight something 0%, nobody's going to do it. Okay, we've got more to do in our lives than we have time for, so we have to pick and choose. So I got to weight it for something. If I weight it for 80% of your grade, you're going to get so obsessed with getting a good grade on these assignments that you're probably not going to learn as much as you might. You got to be able to work on these things and make mistakes and try things and so on and so forth. So 15% doesn't mean they're not important. They're one of the most important parts of the course. Okay, but I don't want people to get focused on, I got to get a really good grade because this is 90% of my final grade. One-day programs and homework. So we're going to talk about ODPs, one-day programs, in about 20 minutes. These are intended to be very short bite-sized programming problems that you have 24 hours to do, okay, one day. And they're really intended as kind of a way to sort of self-assess your understanding of whatever it is that we're doing. So we'll typically talk about some topic in class, and there'll be an ODP assigned that day that also deals with that topic. And these ODPs generally get posted at 8 o'clock in the morning, 8:05 actually. And you have 24 hours to do them, so they're due at 8 a.m. the next morning. And if you understand the material, this ODP may take you, 2 or 3 minutes to do. They're very small pieces of code. But if there's something that you don't understand, if we're trying to use the scanf function, and you really don't understand how to use that, you might spend a few hours on this one ODP. Okay? But that's a good thing, right? Because if you don't know how to use scanf today, you're not going to be able to use it tomorrow. You're not going to understand the lectures where we use it. You're not going to be able to use it in your programming assignments. You're not going to be able to use it on the exams, and you'll be writing a lot of code in your exams, right? So you'd like to find out the first time that we talk about scanf, hey, I don't really understand this, and spend the hour or two then to figure it out. Now it's in your toolbox, and now you can build on it. So the ODPs, if you're up to speed on the subject, they shouldn't take a lot of time. Okay, they open up at 8:05. Typically, by the time class starts, a number of people have already turned in the ODP, right? But when it opens, my suggestion is take a look at it if you have time before class. When we come to class, we'll talk about it. I'll put it up on the screen, and we'll run through what the expectations are. If it's confusing, I might show you what it should do. And then you go off and you work on it and try to turn it in by 8 o'clock the next morning. ODPs are automatically graded. There's a tool on the server called Assess that you can use to automatically grade your code. And if you don't get 100% on it, you can make changes, you can regrade it, and keep doing this until you get 100%. Okay, so it lets you
What does it assess?
It assesses whether or not your code does what it's supposed to do.
Okay.
So, and there's...
So it has no, it doesn't care about the syntax or anything like that?
Not generally. Yeah. All right, there'll be a few homework assignments also, and those and the ODPs get lumped together into 10% of your grade. Okay, there's one ODP up already. It's actually a 2-day program. It's due Wednesday morning, and that's what we're going to run through in about 15 minutes. I'll show you how to write the code for that, how to assess it, and so on and so forth. All right, attendance is 10% of your grade, so that sign-in sheet. Did everybody here get this? Sign in? Okay, so this will go around in the beginning of class. If you come to class late, just come up after class and make sure you sign in. Sign next to your name, fill in the little circle on the left. And for the first few days, if you're not on here, go ahead and just write your name on the back and talk to me. So I'll leave that up here, and like I say, after class, if you didn't get to sign in already, come up and sign in. So that's worth 1 point a day, and total of all the attendance points is 10% of your grade. All right, midterm is 25%, cumulative final is 25%, service learning project is 15%, and we'll talk about the SLP probably tomorrow. But it's a year-long project that you get to work on through this course, 222 and 223, or if you're in the engineering sequence, through the engineering 200 level courses. And it's just a longer project of your own choosing, and it gets started in this course, 224. So we'll talk about details of that tomorrow. If any questions come up now or any time during the course, just go ahead and interrupt me. Keep it pretty dynamic. Course policies, you can read through academic honesty and plagiarism. We'll talk more about it as we get into our assignments, but basically do your own work, okay? And there's some gray areas in a programming class because you want to work with friends and classmates, you want to kick around ideas, stuff like that. That's fine. You don't want to compare code. You don't want to say, I can't get my code to work, what did you do? And look at your friend's code and say, oh, okay, and then type in what they did. Don't want to do that, okay? So make sure you're turning in your own work. If you have any questions, ask me about it. Generally, I'm not going to accept late work, okay, with a few exceptions. For example, the proposal for the service learning project, that can be turned in late. It costs you 10 points a day for turning it in late. but it's something that we're going to build on for 40 weeks. So you got to turn it in. I can't just say, oh, it's 5 minutes late. It doesn't count, right? So that can be turned in late. Programming assignments, I'll usually let come in 24 hours late for a 25% penalty. Not so that you can have an extra day to work on it, but if something bad happens, if your internet goes down, if you overslept or something, right? You spend 2 weeks on a project, I want you to be able to get some points for it. Okay, so there'll be lists of penalties for that, but in general, if it's not turned in on time, it's going to be a 0. Same thing with exams, don't miss your exams. Okay, if you know ahead of time you're not going to be here for an exam, let me know as soon as possible. All right, support services, in particular the DSS office. So Clark is committed to making sure that every student here at Clark has every possible opportunity to learn what they're trying to learn and to demonstrate their understanding. Okay? And there are cases where you may find yourself in a situation where some sort of accommodation would help you do that. For example, you're sitting in the back corner of the room right next to the fan and it's hard to hear me, right? But you're coming from across campus and every time you get here, the only seat that's open is over there right next to the fan, okay? That puts you in an unfair situation. We don't want that to happen. So come and talk to me and say, hey, I can't hear you from over there, but I get here. And we'll do something, right? We'll reserve a seat in the front or in the side or something like that. If you're not able to take notes efficiently and also pay attention to slides, right, and you would benefit from having somebody take notes for you, that can be set up. If you feel like you need extended time or you need to take exams in a low distraction environment, that can be set up. Okay, so there's a whole office at Clark, the Disability Support Services office, that you can work with to make these kinds of accommodations. Okay, so if you feel like one of these accommodations, one or more of these would be helpful to you, right, you have a few options. You can talk to me, start the conversation. You can visit the DSS office in Penguin Union Building. You can go to their website, send them email, give them a call. There's lots of options, okay? But this is a service that's there specifically for you, okay? If there's anything that you feel is putting you at a disadvantage in terms of your classes, not just this class, but any class you're taking at Clark, right? DSS office is a resource you might want to look into. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. This is most likely the only day you'll see me using PowerPoint or PowerPoint-like things in this course. And this is probably the only time you'll catch me reading something from a PowerPoint slide. But I want to read the non-discrimination policy because this cuts across all the classes at Clark, everything that we do at Clark, and it's something we take really seriously. So I want to make sure everybody has at least seen and heard this one time. So I'm going to just read this to you. So this is Clark College's non-discrimination policy. So Clark College affirms a commitment to freedom from discrimination for all members of the college community. The college expressly prohibits discrimination against any person on the basis of race, color, national origin, disabled veteran status, sex, sexual orientation, age, gender identity, creed, gender expression, Vietnam-era veteran status, religion, marital status, and the presence of physical, sensory, or mental disability. The responsibility for and the protection of this commitment extends to students, faculty, administration, staff, contractors, and those who develop or participate in college programs. It encompasses every aspect of employment and every student and community activity. So that's hopefully pretty self-explanatory. But again, this is not just this class, okay? This is every class you're taking at Clark. So if you find yourself in a situation where something is not quite right, where you're spending your energies dealing with something related to some kind of discriminatory behavior, instead of being able to spend your energies on your coursework, your class, paying attention, and so on, right? Talk to somebody. You can always come and talk to me, even if it's a different class, and I can tell you who to go to from there. And if you're not sure, start a conversation anyway, right? I've had, this comes up very rarely in my experience, okay? But there have been cases where this has come up in the classes I've taught. And, you know, sometimes you're not sure, am I imagining this? Is this real? That kind of thing. come have a conversation anyway, right? And it's a very well thought out process of, you know, moving forward slowly and deciding, you know, is this a situation that I need to do something about, and so on and so forth. And it seems to work very well. So any questions about that? Okay. Code of Student Conduct, you can read about that. Additional information are on Canvas. There's a link to Canvas. You know how to get to Canvas. Keys to Success, I'm going to read you some different keys to success because, yeah, I should take those out. These are good keys to success too, but if class gets canceled, I will use Clark's system to notify you of that. It will do two things. One, it should send you an email right away, and two, it will put the class on the list of cancellations, today's cancellations, on the website, just in case we run into, you know, weather or tornadoes or who knows what now. You'll find out through that, but generally I don't cancel a class. Except October 3rd, I'm going to cancel a class, but I'll post that later. And then department policies, there's a link to the PDF. All right, questions on the syllabus? All right, so following the syllabus, there's a thing, additional course notes. This is the thing that's actually really specific to this particular section, okay? And so this is something that I tailored for CSE 224 in fall. And if there's conflicting information between here and the syllabus, this takes precedence, okay? This is the one to pay attention to. So here, let me talk about the keys to success. This is based on my own experience, both as a student and as an instructor. Okay, and your keys to success may be different, but these are things that I've generally found go along with, you know, being successful in this kind of course. Okay, first key, make sure you do all of the one-day programs and try to get 100% on them. As I said, these are sort of short snippets of code that you'll be writing, generally, you know, 5 to 10 lines of C code or shell code. But you want to make sure you do all of them, and you want to get 100%. If you get 90%, you're missing something. Okay, it doesn't mean you understand 9/10 of the material. It means you're missing something fundamental, and that's going to be a gap that you're going to try to build on, right? And everything collapses down the road. If something is not working on a daily program, on a programming assignment, on something else, don't give up. Okay. Don't delete what you've done and start from scratch. That's the worst thing you could do. So this will sound a little odd perhaps, but when you're writing a piece of code, you're trying to write something that sorts numbers. And you figure out an algorithm, and you type it in, and you code it, and you compile it, it compiles fine, you run it, and it doesn't sort your numbers. Okay? That piece of code you have in front of you, that is the most valuable thing in the world now. Because that piece of code holds the key to some critical piece of understanding that you're missing. If you delete that piece of code, you've lost an opportunity to learn something. You might delete it and you might try something totally different and that works. Okay, that's great, you got the program done, you get points for that. But somewhere in the back of your brain, there's still a misunderstanding that caused you to write that first piece of code that did not work correctly. Okay, so when you find something like that, that's a golden opportunity. That's a nugget. Okay, that's a precious gem. You want to hold on to that and you want to explore it. Because it's the problem specifically for you that's going to help you learn something. I'll give you problems to work on. They're problems that I think will be useful, but you know, most people, they're probably going to be able to do it, or they're not going to be able to do it because of something else, right? This is a problem that's specifically tailored to you now. It's really, really precious, and if you throw it away, you lose an opportunity. So when you find something that doesn't work, you got to work through it. You got to learn to figure out what's going on in this program. This is what we call debugging. What's going on in this program? What did I think would be going on in this program? Somewhere those are going to diverge from each other. That's the point where your knowledge grows. Okay? Your knowledge grows through the things that don't work, not through the things that do work. So you want to start early enough to leave time to go through that process. Don't start your assignment the night before it's due if it's a 2-week assignment, because at that point you're just panicked. I got to get this to work. Try this. Oh, didn't work. Throw it away. Try something else. That didn't work. Throw it away. Try something else. Hey, it works. I'm done. Right? Start early enough that you have time to take those things that don't work and really delve into them. And we'll talk about how to debug, okay, and how to figure out what's going on with a program and where that disconnect might be. Okay, another key, stick to working in a Linux environment. Okay, this is a Linux course. Part of what you're going to be tested on is Linux type stuff. How do you do this? How do you rename a file? How do you create a directory? How do you move from one directory to another? Where are these things located? How do you compile? How do you build a tar archive? Things like that. If you work in a Linux environment for the next 11 weeks, you're not going to have to study any of that stuff for the exam. Because it's going to be stuff that you've been doing for 11 weeks. You're going to know it. If instead you're working in an IDE or using code blocks or Visual Studio or Eclipse or something like that, it's going to do all the work for you. How do you write a C program? Immediate number sign include angle bracket stdio.h. Well, if your editor always writes that for you and you've never written that, when you get to an exam, guess what? You got to write that on paper, right? You're going to be writing code on your exams. So what do I put in the beginning? I don't know. It's something with an include somewhere, right? So work from a Linux environment, work on the command line, avoid IDEs, and you'll learn at least half the material here just by using it every day.
Text editors are all right, though.
Text editors are right, yeah. All right, so I'm going to say use VI for editing. Okay, I think I'm actually going to ask some VI questions on the exams this quarter. It's hard to explain why VI is important, but it really helps you. And I'm gonna say something here that would get me in all kinds of trouble on Stack Overflow, but this is not the most efficient way to work with a computer. Okay, I'm gonna make the statement: observation. The less you use your mouse, the more efficient you're gonna be. Okay, typing really efficient. Okay, because it's all right here. Every time you got to go to a mouse, you got to find the mouse, you got to start moving it, you got to see where the little mouse pointer is, and now you got to play a little video game, which is let's get the mouse pointer up to the middle of the K, right? And it's a feedback loop. And you might be very good at mousing, right? But if you're in VI and you're comfortable with VI, there are much more efficient ways to move around a file and do your editing. And our goal is to concentrate on programming, to write code, to test code, to debug code. Okay, that's what we want to be doing. We don't want to be fighting our machines. Okay, so that's a suggestion. Okay, stick to VI for editing. Stick to the command line, right? Avoid IDEs. Ask lots of questions. Okay, early. If something's not clear, let's talk about it. Explore and understand things that don't work. Again, right? If it's not working, that's what you want to spend your time with. Those are the good things. If you can write something and it works fine, you know that. You don't need to spend any more time on it. If you're trying to write a sort and you can't get your sort to work, okay, you're going to spend a lot of time working on sort. Okay, so those are some things to think about. Getting help, okay, I am here to help you. This is my job. I get paid to come up here and talk, but that's just part of it, right? I mean, you could watch last year's videos. I'm here to help you, okay? And my biggest value to you probably is answering questions. Having you come to me and say, you know, I'm trying to get this thing to work and it's doing this instead of that, right? Now, I won't tell you how to write your code. I won't say, oh, you forgot to put a comma over here, right? But I will try to help you explore the problems you're running into and figure out what the nature of them is, and then point you in a direction where you can correct those, okay? That's why I'm here. And other people may be easier to go to for help because you may see them more often, or, you know, maybe it feels intimidating to go to a teacher who's going to give you a grade and say, I don't understand this, right? I've been there myself. I've been a student most of my life. But it's really important that when you're trying to get help, somebody doesn't just give you the answer. And I've had students in the past who are well-intended, but will inevitably just give somebody the answer, say, here, let me show you how to do this, and they'll fix their code for them, right? And then you lose the opportunity to learn. So don't hesitate to come and talk to me for help, okay? Yeah?
Are we able to hit you up via Discord?
Yes, so this is the next thing, so Discord. So we're using Discord in this course.
Am I able to just private message you my personal problem with any homework and be like, hey,
sure.
Okay.
So I haven't used this before, okay? So in the past we've gone email heavy, and I've tried to get people to use the discussion area on Canvas. Limited success. Last spring, by the end of the quarter, I was getting like 50 to 100 emails from students every day, okay? And most of these questions were things where the answer was available in the syllabus, in the notes, in the videos, things like that. But, you know, it's easier to just send an email than to go back and look through, you know, 5 weeks worth of notes or something like that. It's like Google, right? But it's not really practical. And a lot of the questions that would come to me in email would be the same question over and over and over again. Like what should we do in this assignment if the user does such and such, you know? And it's like, well, in the second paragraph it says if the user does such and such, you know. So we're gonna try to rely on Discord, okay? And when you have questions, like, you know, what are we supposed to do in this case, or what does it mean by check for user errors, or when's the midterm, or things like that, go to Discord, okay? The times I want you to use email are when you need to talk to me about something that's very particular to you, not something that needs to be brought up in front of 60 students, but something like, you know, my machine crashed and I lost all my work and I've got to work tonight and the assignment's due tomorrow, blah, 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 right? Send me an email, okay? And if you send me an email saying something like, you know, when's this assignment due, I'll probably just respond and say, post this on Discord, okay? And if you're on Discord and somebody posts a question and you know the answer to it, this is a great way for you to learn, right? Explaining things to others is a really great way to build up your own understanding. On the other hand, I don't want you to post code, okay? So don't go to Discord and say, I can't get my program to work, and somebody show me the code for it, and say, sure, here you go, right? Try not to do that. And if I see that, you know, I'll delete it and I'll put a note saying, like, don't post code or whatever. And there's gray areas, okay? But, you know, make sure you understand how to do such and such, or why don't you try a test program or something like that, right? Feel free to offer ideas like that. All right, so Discord, you can get to the server through that, and there's a 215 channel, there's a 224 channel, there's a general channel. We might make a meme channel or something, I don't know.
That was going to be my question.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
All right, so we're working in Linux. I'll show you how to get on the server in a moment. We're also going to make use of Git. How many people here are familiar with Git? Awesome, okay. Git is a source code control system. It's a collaboration tool. It's a way to make copies of your code as you're developing it. It's a way to, if you're working on a group project, collaborate with other people so you can all share and work with the same code base. You can create multiple branches of your code. If you want to try something, you can start making a set of changes and still leave the original version intact. It's also a way to store things in the cloud. You can go to a Git server such as GitLab and push all your changes out there, and you can always pull down your code from there. So we're going to play with Git. We're going to talk about details of it tomorrow. We'll go through a demo probably up here of how to get set up on Git. And Git's how you're going to actually turn in your assignments. So your homework 1, which is listed as due Friday, is to basically get yourself a GitLab account, make a repository, push a README into there, and give me access to it. We'll go through the details of that tomorrow, but we'll be making heavy use of Git. And that's useful because if you're going WSU after Clark, they use Git for everything. If you're going into the workforce, most companies use Git or some kind of source code control system. So this is stuff that you'll be doing again and again. All right, you can read through the rest of that, but that's basically the highlights. All right, so let's talk about the Linux server. So there's a how-to that I strongly recommend taking a look at, and it starts like this. So accessing the Linux server, this is what we're going to do right now. First thing to note, the Linux server is linux.engrcs.com. It is not the CTEC server. Okay, we have our own server in here. We can have more fun having our own server because we can do whatever the heck we want with it. So linux.engrcs.com. Your user information is different from CTEC. CTEC, it was first initial, period, last name, and maybe a number. Okay, that's not your user ID. So your user ID is your first initial followed by your last name. Okay, no period, no number at the end. And your password is your 9-digit student ID followed by an underscore. Okay, and this is the how-to on Canvas, so you can find this up there. So first thing you want to do is try to log into the Linux server. And if using these things you cannot get logged in, send me an email, okay? That's an email situation, not a Discord situation. Send me an email and make the subject something obvious like can't get logged in. And I will collect those emails tonight, and I'll either confirm that you have an account and remind you what your login should be, or I'll set up an account for you. Because I set the accounts up a few weeks ago, so if you registered after that, you may not have an account. All right, so let's hop onto the server. So if you're on a Windows system, you can use PuTTY, same thing you did in 121. Instead of ctech.clark.edu, you say linux.engrcs.com. If you're on a Linux machine or if you're on a Mac, you can use SSH to connect instead of PuTTY. You're probably used to this from 121. If you're on your phone, there's a variety of clients you can use, Termux, things like that. I'm on a Linux machine. Yeah.
Just a suggestion.
Chromebook should let you do SSH. Open up a terminal window and then do SSH. You had a suggestion?
Yeah, Termius is also a pretty good program.
Termius? Okay, I think I've used that one, yeah. Editing code in VI is not a whole lot of fun on a phone. There's hacker keyboards that have escape keys and things like that that can make it easier. But in a pinch, you can do it. All right, so I'm just going to SSH and yeah, so my normal account is set up to automatically log me in, so I just made a different account.
This is Go Blinking.
Go Blinking, yeah. So SSH, username, add linux@engrcs.com, put in your password. Okay, so for you, this is going to be your student ID followed by an underscore. Okay, I already did this in the morning class, so I already changed my password. But when you log in, it's going to say your password has expired, and it'll ask you to re-enter your current password. That's your student ID, followed by an underscore, and that'll ask you to put in a new password, and then it'll ask you to put in the new password again. Okay. So it'll ask you for your current password and then your new password twice, and then it'll log you out. Then try logging in with your new password. And if something goes wrong and you can't get logged back in, send me an email and I'll reset your login for you. Okay, so I already did it this morning. I set my password. I'm logged in now.
What's the command askcon do? Nice.
Yeah. So it's a version of Fortune that a student put together based on their experiences in these courses.
Wait. What's your password right now?
9-digit student ID followed by an underscore. 10 characters total. All right, so let's talk about the ODPs, because I want you to be able to do your first ODP. So here's ODP 401. It's due Wednesday morning. So it's a 2-day program. And your goal is to write a program that prints out hello world. Okay? Very, very first program that you usually write. And then remember, this gets graded automatically, so there's a command assess which will grade your code for you. So the assess command is assess the name of your executable program followed by the name of your source file. Okay, so we write C code, we put it in what's called a source file. That's the file that we can read as humans. When we say GCC, we compile it into an executable program that we can type the name and it'll run. So assess takes 2 arguments, the executable followed by the source code. Okay, so let's just do this. So let's make myprogram.c. All right, so there's my program.c that I'm going to try to assess. And I didn't read my assignment very carefully, so I'm just printing out the word hello. Okay, so that's my source code program. I need to compile it. Okay, if I do this, what's my executable program called?
Myprog. Or no, A.
It's called a.out, right? which is fine for a quick compilation, but if you do this for every program gets the same executable name. That's not really good. So a good habit to get into, name your output file. You can call it whatever you want, but GCC-O says whatever I put next, my prog in this case, that's what I want the executable program to be called. And now every program, every source file that I compile, I can give the executable a different name. They don't overwrite each other. All right, so I've made this program called myprog, and I can run it to see what it does. Hey, it prints out hello. That should be good for 10 points, right? Okay, so I'm going to assess this. So I'm going to say assess my program. Well, I didn't read my assignment carefully, remember. So it says you need to specify the source file name as the second argument. So assess my program .c, and it brings me into the assessment system. Okay, there's my user ID on the top, and you got three options: submit your code for grading, exit, or get help. And the help just shows you those three options. All right, and there's a little note here at the bottom says you are about to assess your code for ODP 401. Write a C program that outputs hello world. This will tell you what you're assessing. Okay. If you think that you're assessing ODP 402 and you say assess and it says you're about to assess for 401, don't run your code, okay? Because it's probably not going to get credit if it's the wrong assignment. So at that point, just exit, right? And it'll remind you, hey, you didn't actually submit it for grading, okay? So we are doing 401. We're good to go. Let's go ahead and use the G command. And it runs and I get 0 out of 10. Yeah.
Does this only grade the output?
Basically, yeah.
Okay.
All right, so I got 0 out of 10. What do? Send me an email and say, hey, my code doesn't work, what's wrong? No, that's not the right answer. Okay? Go back and read the assignment. Okay? Read the assignment and then run your program and say, did it print out hello world? Oh, it's supposed to say hello world. Okay. So go in and edit. Make sure you got the new line at the end and so on. Recompile. Rerun it. Hey, that looks good. You got to reassess it. Okay, right now you got a 0 out of 10. So go ahead and
VI and GC, are those custom aliases or?
Those we'll talk about those later, but that's just recalling the last time I did anything that started with a VI or GC.
Okay.
Okay, so let's rerun the assess command, and let's go ahead and use the G command to grade. Hey, I got 10 out of 10. I'm done for the day. Okay.
Is it ever going to give you like less than 10 besides 0?
There might be multiple tests. Each test is 0 or 10.
I see.
Yeah. And so you might get 5 tests correct and miss 1 and you get like 86 or something. All right, so you can do this as many times as you want, but it's the last grade that's going to be recorded. So don't just go back and try something to see what happens and you get a 0 and you leave, right? Because the 0 is the one that's recorded. Make sure that you always run the one that gets you the score that you want. Okay, does that make sense?
And then after, or is that it? Like as soon as it runs that, you're done?
As soon as it runs that, you're done. Just use the X command to exit.
And it's already submitted and everything?
And it's already submitted and recorded, yeah. And it'll show up in Canvas sometime in the next few days. All right, so there's the code for ODP 401, right? And you can type that in verbatim if you want. The code's not the issue here, right? The question is, can you compile it? Can you run the assess command? Can you use the G command and so on and so forth? Okay, so my goal is go ahead and do this today, right? We'll get logged into the server, right? And send me that email if you're not logged in. And as soon as you have access, go ahead and write this program, compile it, make sure it looks like it works, run the assess, get your 10 points. Okay. And then Wednesday morning, another ODP will open. We'll talk about it in class Wednesday, and we'll go from there. All right, questions on that? So you can turn in the information sheet tomorrow. Sign in today if you didn't sign in at the beginning. You got a question?
Yeah, so I logged on to the server, reset my password. I think I forgot my password.
Okay, shoot me an email. All right, cool. I will see you tomorrow then, or in 2:15.